The night he left me is etched into my memory like a scar carved deep into stone. It was raining outside, a heavy storm rattling against the windows, and the air in the house felt suffocatingly thick. I was sitting on the couch with our 3 tiny babies bundled against my chest, their little cries piercing through the thunder. My body was weak, trembling from the effects of chemotherapy that had drained the very life from my bones. I had lost my hair, my appetite, and almost my will to fight. Yet I held those babies like they were the only thing tethering me to this world. My husband, Michael, stood near the door, suitcase in hand, his face cold, his voice sharper than the storm outside. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He simply said, "I can't do this anymore, Anna. You're sick, the kids cry all night, and I didn't sign up for this kind of life." His words pierced me more deeply than the cancer ever had. Before I could find the strength to respond, he opened the door, walked out, and left me alone, left me to die with our triplets and my disease. The door slammed shut, and with that sound, my world shattered into pieces. The silence that followed was unbearable. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm inside my heart. I looked down at the 3 fragile faces staring up at me, completely unaware of the devastation their father had just unleashed. I remember crying so hard that night, clutching them tighter, whispering to them through broken sobs, "Don't worry, Mommy's here. Mommy won't leave you." My tears soaked their tiny blankets, and my body shook with grief and fear, but something inside me hardened. I realized that if I was going to survive, for them, for me, I could no longer depend on anyone but myself. The weeks that followed were a blur of suffering and survival. Cancer is cruel, but what made it crueler was the loneliness. There were days I was so weak from chemo that crawling to their crib felt like climbing a mountain. Nights when my fever spiked and chills rattled my bones, yet I still forced myself to rock them back to sleep, humming lullabies through cracked lips. I remember looking in the mirror one morning and not recognizing the hollow-eyed, bald woman staring back. But then I would look at the triplets, 3 pairs of eyes filled with innocence and trust, and I knew I could not give up. People suggested foster care, saying it would be better for the children until I got better. The very thought broke me. These babies had been born from my body, my blood, my sacrifice. No matter how weak I was, I would never let them go. We lived on next to nothing. Government assistance gave us food stamps, and kind strangers from the church sometimes dropped off diapers or second-hand clothes. I learned how to stretch every dollar, how to make soup from scraps, how to sew tiny clothes out of old shirts. The neighbors would sometimes hear me coughing late at night, but no one ever knocked. Loneliness became my closest companion, yet determination burned quietly inside me. I told myself that even if I died, I wanted my children to grow up knowing that their mother fought for them with every ounce of her strength. After 2 years of treatment, 2 endless years of pain, needles, surgeries, and sleepless nights, the doctors finally said the words I had prayed for: remission. The cancer was gone. My body was scarred, my spirit weathered, but I was still here. More importantly, my children were still here with me. They were toddlers now, running around the small apartment with messy hair and sweet giggles. Every time I watched them play, I felt both sorrow and joy, sorrow that they would never know the love of a father, but joy that they had survived the hardest beginning to life with me by their side. I knew I couldn't stop there. I wanted to give them more than survival. I wanted to give them a future. So I enrolled in nursing school, taking night classes while working odd jobs during the day and raising the kids in between. There were nights I fell asleep on the kitchen table with textbooks open and tears dripping onto the pages from sheer exhaustion. But every diploma earned, every exam passed, was one step closer to the life I dreamed of for them. After years of struggle, I finally graduated and landed a job at the local hospital. The first time I put on my nurse's uniform and pinned my badge that read Anna Carter, RN, I cried. Not because of what I had achieved, but because of how far I had come. From a woman abandoned to die, to a mother who refused to quit, to a professional building a new life from ashes. The triplets grew fast. They were bright, loving, and full of endless questions. They never once asked about their father because to them, I was everything: mother, father, protector, and provider. I never poisoned their minds with hatred, but I also never painted a picture of a man who had abandoned them. Silence was enough. Years later, when life had finally started to feel stable, fate decided to test me again. I was working a late shift at the hospital when a name appeared on my patient chart that made my blood run cold. Michael Carter. My ex-husband. The man who had walked away from me in my weakest moment. My hands trembled as I held the chart, but professionalism pulled me forward. I walked into the room, my nurse's uniform neat, my hair pulled back, my posture strong. He looked nothing like the man who had once broken me. He was lying weak on the bed, tubes in his arms, his face pale and aged beyond his years. When his eyes landed on me, they widened in disbelief. "Anna," he whispered, his voice cracking. You're alive." I wanted to laugh, but all I felt was a calm strength. "Yes, Michael. I'm alive. More alive than ever." He stammered, trying to explain, trying to justify. He asked about the children. He cried when I told him they were thriving but had no memory of him. He begged for forgiveness, saying he had been young, scared, overwhelmed. But I looked at him and saw not the man I once loved, but a stranger. He had left me to die, and yet here I stood, strong, healed, successful, and full of love for the children he abandoned. Over the next few days, I was assigned to his care. The irony was sharp. The man who had left me when I was helpless now lay helpless in front of me, depending on my compassion to survive. He reached out one night, whispering, "I thought you'd be gone by now." "I thought the cancer would." His words trailed off. I looked into his tired eyes and said softly, "But I'm not gone, Michael. You left me to die, but I chose to live. That's the difference between us." When my shift ended, I went home and hugged my triplets, no longer babies, but growing children with dreams and bright futures. I felt nothing but gratitude. Gratitude for the strength I had found in my darkest hour, gratitude for the love that filled my home, gratitude that I had survived what was meant to destroy me. And so, dear viewer, if you take anything from my story, let it be this: sometimes the people you trust most will abandon you in your weakest moments, but their choices do not define your destiny. Pain can either break you or build you. Betrayal can either end you or awaken you. I chose to live, I chose to fight, and I chose to rise. If you are watching this now, feeling like life has broken you, remember this: you are stronger than you think, and your future can still shine brighter than your past. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear from you, because your words matter more than you realize. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Be Kind Always, for more emotional, inspiring stories that remind us of the power of hope, courage, and kindness. Together, let's build a community that lifts each other up, because no one should ever feel alone in their fight.